Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I am going to show you how I set up my drum bus. The first thing I want is compression. I want to compress my shells, but I only want to compress it just a tiny bit, maybe 1 to 2 dB. So I like to use Waves, the one that you find on an SSL console. And then I use a preset. And I'm going to use pump. I take off the analog. The makeup, I'm going to hold down Alt and click it. That sets it to the default, which is 0. I'll fix this later. The same thing with this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm setting it as if nothing is happening. So what I like to do is I like to hit bypass. Then I'm going to hit play. And then I'm going to take out the bypass, and there shouldn't be much of a change. Take a listen. Now I'm going to mess around with the threshold until I see about maybe 2 here. And what's going to trigger this the most is obviously the snare. Okay, so I really want to tame the snare. I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to mess around with the threshold until I'm hitting about 2. Here we go. So that's pretty good. Okay? Again, that's just leveling all the shells pretty much. Next, I want to add some saturation. So I go to my Crane Song, Phoenix by Crane Song. I leave everything the way it is, and I just process it. You hear how it opens up. It just sounds fuller because it's saturating. So now all the different frequencies are being hit. But then here in the output trim, what I like to do is I want to level. So that's basically why I lower this down a little bit, because when you process it, it does tend to get louder. And that's the whole point. You don't want to put something louder because then you're going to think it sounds better, but that's only because it's louder. You want to be able to, with these plugins, all plugins usually have an output. So you want to level it so that when you bypass it, the levels shouldn't change. So you can better hear what the plugin is actually doing. And then finally, what I like to do is I like to clip it. So I use JST clip. I like to use what I'll call the three dots or the 3 lights. But then I also trim it, and I trim it at -3 dB. Okay, this is so I just won't I won't overpower the bus or clip the bus. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to bypass all of them so we can hear before and after. And the way I bypass all the plugins on one channel is by holding down Control. If I hold down Control and click, bypass all of them. If I don't do that, I would have to hold down Command and do it one at a time. But instead, I hold down Control, and now I can bypass all of them. Okay, so let's take a listen. If you can hear that, you hear that there's more energy. Now, remember, all these moves that we're doing should be subtle, but you should be able to hear the difference. A listener may not be able to hear the difference, but they know that there's energy in the drums, that there's excitement, that it's in your face and up front. And that's what you're doing here. You're just adding little bits. For example, here I'm just doing 2 dB, but it's doing something. It's doing something. It's leveling it. And when you level it, then you can bring the energy up by saturating it. Then you can clip it so it just won't go over the top. And I try to keep my drum buzz at a minimum. I just use these 3. I don't do anything else to it. I used to use distortion, but if I'm saturating it, there's no need really to do distortion. So now that everything is leveled, if you notice that my mix bus, there's nothing on it. And I don't do top-down mixing. But at this point, I may just start adding something to the mix. And the first thing that I add to the mix is a compression. And I use the same compression because now here the shells are also going through. And then I also use a preset. And this one, I like to use the Crystal Algae, the finalizer. Okay, I take out this, make sure that this is at 0, bring the threshold down. And then now I start messing with the threshold. And then here, I even like to do less. Maybe not even just hitting 2, barely hitting 2. So let me play the whole thing, and here we go. Okay, good. So that's it. That's all I do to it. Now, this is a plugin that I monitor throughout my mix, because obviously when I start adding more instruments and everything, this is going to get louder. So I'm always adjusting it. But for now, since only the drums are going through the main mix or the 2-bus, I'm happy with it right here. And again, see, I keep it simple. And it's sounding pretty good. So that is how I use, or how I create a drum bus. And in my next video, I am going to send the snare, and I'm going to show you how I do parallel compression to add even more excitement to not only the snare, but to the overall drum sound. And until next time, happy mixing.